If I was to ask you, what do you believe? I'm sure most of you guys would be like, what do you mean? And then the rest of you will probably proceed to tell me that you believe in God in terms of the Christian, or you believe in Christianity, or I believe in Allah in terms of I believe in Islam, or Yahweh, or Krishna, or any of the like. And then if I ask you what you believe in terms of your values, you said again, some people will come and say I believe in Christianity or etc. But what I actually am trying to find out is, what are your principles? What is the principles of your life? What are the core beliefs and the core value systems that guide the way you go about things, essentially? Most businesses, whenever they start, you see them, they'll have a mission statement, they'll have the values of the company, and they'll have the ethos and what are they trying to solve. And it's ultimately in that sense they get their purpose, they get their values, and they essentially create the principles at which they work with. And for you, it's, you have loads of Christians, but their principles aren't the same, because the way you act, your principles guide the way you act, and the way people act is different from person to person. And that's the reason why when I ask you, what do you believe in terms of a principle, some of you guys might be like, oh, I try to be honest in every situation that I'm in. The beauty of a principle, and where principle actually comes out and what it's there for, is that your principles will always be challenged. When you believe in something hard enough, then, or you say this is who I want to be, then they will be challenged. And it's in those moments where they're challenged that you know how, to what level this is actually a principle of yours. So if you say I want to be honest in every situation, but you have bare opportunities where you were not honest, it doesn't even have to be about yourself. You saw somebody took someone's pen in a little sense, and then the person came in looking for the pen and you just kept quiet. You weren't honest in that situation. It's not that much of a principle to you, depending on how that principle is, whether it's just in the big stuff that you say or in the small stuff you let go. You define your principles for yourself. And if someone who lives a principled life, it makes your life better in terms of having direction, having what you know you will do and won't do. Even for me, I remember the times that, I to be honest, I've been principled to a lot of times in my life, but the times that I remember that I wasn't living by my principles, or I didn't know what my principles were at that point in time, those were the times where I was doing stuff where, for me, it was outside of my character. At the time, it just felt some type of way. And in those moments is when you now have to reevaluate who you are and what you are and what your principles are. Now, the beauty about principles is that even though to some extent they can be a rigid value system at any specific point in time, you have to understand principles you need to be willing to grow with your principles. But the thing is, when you grow, during that transition of you reevaluating what is important to you and what your principles look like to you, then during that transition period, it's important for you to reflect and reaffirm what this principle means to you. Because in that moment when you're shifting from one principle to another, so whether it's from not believing in God to believing in God, is it from not telling the truth to telling the truth? I remember before I used to tell people I used to tell the truth, but now I try to be honest. Because back then it's like I would be saying the truth, but I wasn't being honest. It's like, if you ask me how I'm doing, I'm fine, but that's not the honest answer. It's just true. I'm alive, so I'm fine. But what your principles are comes down to what you value. And if you find yourself repeatedly making a certain mistake, or repeatedly falling short of what you think is your principles, then they're not really a principle of yours. Like, don't get twisted. No matter what principle you have, you will flop here or there. But if you are repeatedly flopping on that principle, that you say, this is so important to me, this is a high value system on my ranking, but you constantly go against that value system, then you need to reevaluate who you are. Because a lot of us, the time when we say this is who we are, but we're falling short of who we think we are. Remember, the one person you can't lie to is yourself. And just like a business, has an identity and has an ethos of how they go, human beings, if you run yourself like a business, or evaluate yourself in terms of a business kind of sense, in terms of what is your integrity based on? For some people, moving mad, You can't at them because they own this as who they are. They don't mind moving mad. For people who don't move mad when they, for example, you can't put Trump and Obama in the same conversation and attack them on the same value systems, if that makes sense. You can't. Their principles are different. They're different principled human beings, and their value systems and what you can criticize them at is different. If Barack Obama did a quarter of what Trump did, he's rightly to be disappointed, because that's against his principles. And to be honest, it might be the same the other way around. But ultimately, what am I trying to say in this video? I'm saying spend time with yourself, develop principles for yourself that you're going to, move and you're going to go with your life. It honestly, once you know what your principles are, you know what your values are, it helps you in terms of having a direction of where you're going, and it enforces you to be disciplined in what you believe in. Now, don't get twisted. Again, whatever you make as your principle will be challenged multiple times, and it's those moments, similar like faith. Anyone who wants faith, God will give you opportunities to, display your faith. And similar things, in this life is just about opportunities. You don't get anything without working for it. And if you really want to live a more fulfilled life, develop the principles in which that your life will be based off on, and then go from there. And then once you reach a point where you've come to grow, reevaluate those principles and accept that you've changed. Some people, they get stuck in that, okay, this is who I was 10 years ago, so I have to still be that person now. Who Gochukwu Ezeji was 10 years ago is not who he is now. There's some core values that are still there. Who I was when I started uni and who I am now is different. The person I came out of uni and the person who's finishing it, going into transitioning jobs and stuff like that is a different person now. Growth comes every day, and as you continue growing, your values and your systems may grow with you, and it's okay. But it's important that you reaffirm what that is. So, to live a more fulfilled life is to live a more principled life. And if you know what you're willing to, to go on the hill for, if you know what principles you're willing to die for, then at that point you know what you're living for. Have a blessed day. This has been Tickzon, where we try to turn hindsight into foresight. My name's been Ugo. Hit subscribe, hit like, smash in the comments if you have anything to add, say, or disagree with, or another video you'd like to see from us.